going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk sharpening. On our other channel, on the Dylan Talks Tone channel, on one of our off-topic hours, it's come up a few times. How do I keep all of my knives sharp? And so I've got a few different things that I use for a few different types of knives that I have, because I have a bunch. And so we'll just give you a brief overview of some of the stuff that I use. I'll leave links to it in the description if you want to try some of this stuff, because this is all stuff I would recommend because it's stuff that I use all the time, except for one thing that's very new to me. I want to thank one of my YouTube members on the other channel, Patreon members on the other channel, sent me something that I'll show you here in a couple of minutes. But first, let me show you what we are working with, and that'll kind of give you an idea why I give this so much attention. So we've not talked a lot about my kitchen stuff, but we've got some hand-forged Japanese knives over here to the left. Those are all some carbon steel stuff, some stainless stuff, and then we've got some handmade American knives there, and then these are Japanese steak knives, and then I've got a couple of kind of bigger market stuff there. So that's most of the kitchen kit right there. And then of course over here is most of the pocket knife collection. There's a bunch more that's not up here because we've got them, in our pockets, or Leslie's got a few, or Brianna's got a few. They're kind of always sort of in circulation. You've probably seen these in the background in some of our videos. And there's all different knife steels here, and we do use and carry 99% of all of these knives on a regular basis. So they all do need to be kept up, but they're all different things. So let's go ahead and run through a few of the different sharpening methods that I use. All right, so first we've got this Work Sharp Wetstone. And this, basically you fill this up with water, and then this stone can be flipped over, and there's a coarse side that is 1,000 grit, and a not as coarse side that is 6,000 grit. And what I typically use this for is larger carbon steel work knives, because basically a lot of times you'll need them to, well, you'll need to fix them, right? So this knife right here, this is a good example. This is 80 CRV2 steel. So this is a carbon steel knife. It's not stainless. And it's a pretty hard use knife, and I do use it as a hard use knife. I mean, if I have to, the other day, a Coke can gave me a hard time, so I just poked the top of it out with this. I don't really care. But if I ding up the edge, this stone is what I typically use to clean it up. What I do like about it, it's got these little replaceable magnetic little things. So we've got 15 and 17 inch guides. I think does this one go up to 20? Nope, just 15 and 17. Yeah, it works really well. And when you flip it over, it soaks. I like to soak the stone a little bit before I use it. So anything that's carbon steel, again, work knife that you're gonna just have to fix edges, right? Like literally just do repairs on, or retouch up an edge. This is another one. This is a Montana Knife Works, Montana Knife Company blade, and this is 52-100 ball bearing steel. Same thing. This gets a really, really sharp edge, but if you use it and beat it, then sometimes you have to fix it. And like I said, this is an easy way, especially, now you can use this to get a very, very sharp edge. This knife has an incredibly good sharp edge. But freehand sharpening on a whetstone is a skill that you have to practice. So there is that. However, so we've got some stuff to make that easier. However, this dude right here is pretty sweet. I really do like this thing a lot. In kind of that same vein, for the same reason, this is a Work Sharp field sharpener. And so we've got guides here on both sides. You can see I use this a lot. We've got guides here. There's a ceramic rod here. There is a serrated blade here, a serrated blade sharpener here. What I like this for is stuff that is weird shapes, because like if you're going to sharpen an axe, for example, you can hold this in your hand and use it on the edge instead of the other way around. Sometimes something really big like, sometimes something really big like an axe is hard to manipulate on a stone. So it's nice to have this and be able to use this and actually move it instead. These are replaceable carbide plates that magnetize on there. It's got a leather strap on it. I'll also use this to touch up and reestablish edges sometimes, because this really rough side is probably one of the coarser things that I have. So if I have to fix a chip in a knife, a lot of times I'll use this because it's just super, super coarse. And then over here, we've got this rod that rotates, and it's got, you can do a fish hook here. It's got a little bit, kind of a more medium ceramic with some serrations in it here, and then a smooth ceramic here. So again, to me, this is like, if I start here and I need to fix up an edge, a combination of these two a lot of times is what I'll use for that. But this is the thing that I'll just kind of grab quickly. And it works really well. I recommend that everybody have these around, because to me, this is kind of the way you sharpen a knife, right? But when you get into some of the fancier steels, sometimes it's not so easy. All right, so once we get into kind of the fancier steels, I like to use a little bit more precision, especially when the knives cost more. I like to just, for me personally, I like to just use a little bit more precision. These two knives especially, these are my most expensive pocket knives. This is a Chris Reeve Sebenza, and this is Spartan Blades Bill Harsey folder. So this is S45VN steel. This is MagnaCut steel. They take a little bit more to sharpen than your normal carbon steels do. This is a is this S30V, I think? Yeah, which is kind of an older generation of this steel here. And so this is a Benchmade bug out. So these steels, to me, and because as the knives get up in price, I just like to spend more time on them, be a little bit more precise with them. So we have this. This is the Work Sharp Precision, I think they call it, sharpener. And basically the way this thing works is you take this off and you put the blade, there's rubber inside here so it doesn't scratch your blade up. You put this in here and you tighten it down, and then there's a magnet in here and it holds it on. And then you pick your angle here. Typically what I'll do with every knife when I first get it, or when I first need to sharpen it, is I'll mark this bevel, the primary bevel, on the knife right here with a Sharpie. I'll go all the way down with a Sharpie. And then I'll turn this around. This has got 3 different grind grits on it. I think it's got, what has it got? 320, 600, and then a ceramic. I'll flip it around to the ceramic side, and then I will run it on the blade with the Sharpie on it, so that I can basically use this knob to adjust the angle and figure out what angle the primary bevel is at. And if you do it with ceramic, it doesn't really hurt the blade that much. It just kind of tells you, because it'll just rub the Sharpie off to get you the right angle. And then once I do that, then I'll go ahead and flip it around to the rough side, and I will then go ahead and sharpen, sharpen, sharpen until I get a burr on the back side, and then I'll flip it over. You can actually just flip it over, but I just take it out. And then do this again on the other side, and then till you get your burr on both sides, and then flip it over to the next finer one. Flip the knife over again, do it, go back and forth until you get to your edge, and you'll get a really nice edge, and it will be precise and it will be consistent. Now there's a couple of cautions I would give you with this. When you're using it, first of all, make sure if you have a really nice knife that you don't ding up the handle of your knife depending on the angle. The bigger the knife, the harder it is to use. The other thing is that sometimes if the knife has a really weird belly on it, the angle, because of the way this works, will change as it gets out towards the end. The other thing you can have a tendency to do is roll off the end and kill the point of your knife. So you'll actually go like this off the end sort of by accident, and you'll kill that point. When you put a larger blade in here, it's more prone to that sort of thing. So you kind of have to, and what I would do is take note of where you grab this, because once you set this up, then you're probably going to want to clamp it in the same place every time that you do a particular knife. So, but it works awesome. You just kind of have to, when you first do it with a Sharpie, you just kind of have to know that your angle is good and consistent all the way across. And it works really well. This is the basic one. They have a $250 one that's way more precise, and it's got a digital angle finder and all that. It's really, really cool. I just haven't gotten around to buying it. So I really, really like this type of fixed angle system. And it works really awesome. It works really well to reprofile, because when you use the roughest side, you're actually making sure that you get a completely consistent angle. If you use a stone, you could be really good at using a stone to reprofile, but if you're not, you'll end up with like a whoop in the blade, and you don't want that. So I like to use this to reprofile, but most of the time, when I use this, I have a new knife that I've never sharpened before that has a factory edge on it that I want to know what the angle is. I want to establish and make sure that that angle is correct. You know, let's say it comes from the factory at 17. I've had a lot of knives where let's say you'll have one side come at 17 and the other side's at 20. So you'll want to reprofile that to make sure they're both 17 or both 20. I've had a lot of knives come that were not consistent on both sides. So this is really helpful for doing that, finding that angle and setting that angle correctly on both sides and having it 100% consistent. Once you get your knife consistent and it's sharp, then I'm at the point where I don't actually use this stuff very much anymore, because the knives are sharp. So all of my knives are sharp. So we're kind of to the point where we just use a leather strop every few weeks. Just give it a quick strop, reestablish that edge, just give it a quick polish. You could do it on the smooth leather side as well. And, you've got a nice edge there. That's something that I'm happy with. So typically, if the knife is sharp already, this is the only thing I grab out of the drawer. All this other stuff is really just for actual sharpening. But for honing and stropping, typically this same old strop with green compound, I use the green stropping compound, and I use no stropping compound on this side. You can use white stropping compound on the smooth side, but I do not. I just use the smooth leather, and as you can see, with the metal that's embedded in it over time, that it still works. So there you go. All of these knives are wicked, wicked sharp, and that is my routine. Basically based on the steel. And then there's one other sharpening system that was just given to me that I want to show you. This is the Lansky sharpening system. Now this is basically the same exact thing as what we just looked at. It's just a different design. This one, you clamp the knife in here and you hold it in your hand. This rod goes through this hole. The different grits clamp to that rod, and you use this as a fixed angle system. You can screw this to something. There's a bunch of different ways. You could actually screw this to the side of a table if you wanted to. There's a bunch of different ways you could use it. Personally, I have not used it that much because I just got it, and I already have that other angle system. However, this one comes with a bunch of different grits, and so I'm kind of excited to use this with some different knife steels and see how it does. It's pretty cool. So I'm kind of excited to use it. I don't know that the precision of it is going to be as high as with the Work Sharp version, but I do think that it's pretty neat, and I am excited to give it a shot. Now, the last sharpening system I'm going to show you is I actually take one of my cutting boards and it fits perfectly in my sink opening. And this is going to be for my Japanese kitchen knives. Okay, these are specific. This is a carbon steel blade. This is hand forged in Japan. This is a completely different animal than anything we've seen so far. And so I try to use the legit Japanese stuff. So this is a stone holder, and then we have various stones from, you know, I think 300 grit all the way up to 6,000 or something like that. And then this is a flattening stone. So what this does is you actually put wear on your stones as you use them. So as you are sharpening the knife, you'll actually put wear on the stones. And so this actually flattens the stone back out. So because when we're dealing with a 240 millimeter Gyuto with a 15-degree bevel or less, because this knife is so sharp, this knife is sharper than anything else that I have, you're dealing with such a low angle that you really need to make sure that this is flat. And so making sure that the stone is flat. This is not like a hunting knife, right? Because you're dealing with such a long knife, it's so thin, the angle is so low. This is a completely different skill, sharpening knives, than anything else. There's a lot more to kind of deal with here, and I'm still learning it. I'm watching videos, I'm learning from other people that do it. I'd really like to take a class how to sharpen a Japanese kitchen knife. But I'm trying to accumulate all the things. This tub is here because before you sharpen, you really should take all of your stones and put them in water and submerge them in water for maybe 15 or 20 minutes ahead of time because they are true whetstones. And so all that stuff lives in this tub. I fill it up with water and I soak it. And then the other thing that I do, because you see all this stuff, and these are wood handles, so I don't want to ruin my handles, so I'll actually take saran wrap and wrap my handles before I sharpen the knife. So this is strictly for the Japanese kitchen knife stuff. The stuff that's not Japanese, for example, this Bradford here, this is, I believe this is AEBL stainless. I will use the large work sharp and leather strop to sharpen this knife. This stuff is strictly for my Japanese stuff. So there you go. Between the two fixed angle systems, the two kind of flat stone systems, and the strop, as well as the whetstone stuff for just the Japanese stuff, it keeps us sharp. I'll leave links to all this in the description. None of it is really that expensive. I even think this thing is under $100. So I'll leave a link to it all in the description because it's not expensive. Everything that you buy here comes with really good directions. Most of it, the Japanese stuff is its own thing, but for most duties, this stuff right here is pretty awesome, and I think you would dig it. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for hanging out. I hope to see you all in the next video.